In order to find that whether it is a proper or improper, what we need, the degree of the numerator polynomial and degree of the denominator polynomial. So degree of this polynomial and degree of this polynomial. But before we go with this, what we have to do is we have to cancel out if there are any common terms. So in this, we can see that this s can divide the s square term in the numerator. So the finally what we get as a transfer function is s plus 1 and divided by s plus 10. So this is what the transfer function is we get in the end. Now on this we have to decide whether this transfer function is proper or improper, and we have to find out the poles and zeros of the system based on this transfer function. Okay, so when do we call a transfer function to be proper? When the degree of the numerator polynomial, if it is let's say n, and the degree of the denominator polynomial, let's say it is m. So n is the degree of the numerator polynomial is less than or equal to denominator polynomial. Means we should have more poles than zeros. Whenever we are talking about a transfer function, we should have more poles as compared to the zeros. If we have that, then we will call the system function to be proper. Okay. Now, in this case, we have two poles, two zeros and one pole. Two zeros and one pole. So system function is improper. So this is one first question, first answer. Now, secondly, what we have to do? We have to find out what are the poles of the system. So, what is the procedure to find out poles? We take the denominator polynomial, d of s equal to, what is the polynomial in this case? This one. And we equate that to 0. And then find out the roots of this polynomial, roots of this denominator polynomial. So what are the roots here? S equal to minus 10. So s equal to minus 10. This is the only root of this polynomial. So the pole of the system is at this location, s equal to minus 10. Okay. Then the next point is to find out the zeros of the system. And how do we do that? To find out zeros of the system, we have to take the numerator polynomial, which is s into s plus 1, and we have to equate that to 0. So what do we get in this case? Either s equal to 0, this is the one condition, and s plus 1 equal to 0, which gives us s equal to minus 1. So these are the zeros of the system. So as we said here, we have two zeros and one pole. So two zeros are s equal to 0 and s equal to minus 1, and one pole is at s equal to minus 10, right? So this is what we get in for this particular example. Okay, so you got this. Whether the system function is proper or improper, it is improper. Fourth one we are talking about poles. There is one pole at s equal to minus 10. There are two zeros at s equal to 0 and s equal to minus 1. And the order of the system. What is the order of the system? Yes, can someone tell me? We have discussed this in the last lecture. What is the order of the system? How do we find out the order of the system? Order of the system is nothing but the
second order.
Okay, why you are saying it as a second order system?
Degree is 2.
Okay, degree is 2, but which degree? Numerator polynomial degree or denominator polynomial degree?
Numerator.
Okay. Okay, one thing, numerator polynomial degree is 2, this is correct. But to find out order of the system, we have to take into consideration only the denominator polynomial degree. Okay. We have to take into consideration the denominator polynomial degree only for finding out the order of the system. So order of the system would be degree of d of s, which is nothing but equal to number of poles, and that is in this case 1. Okay. Okay, half of your answer is in a way right, that we have to consider the degree of the polynomial, but that degree has to be of the denominator polynomial. Okay, so denominator polynomial degree is 1, therefore the order of the system is 1. Okay, order of the system is 1. In other words, order of the system is equal to the number of poles of the system. That is also correct. Okay, number of poles is equal to the order of the system. Okay, so anyone has any questions regarding what we have seen today or in our previous lecture regarding the problems, these practice questions? Yes. What we are doing, you have to remember what we are doing. First, if there is a equation, there is some equation like this, we have to first see whether there are any cancellation terms in numerator and denominator, means whether there are some common terms. Like here, we had s square in the numerator and s in the denominator. So that those terms will cancel out. I mean, 1 power of s in the numerator will cancel out, right? So this thing we have to first do. And then once we once we cancel out those common terms, then we have to find out the poles and zeros. Okay, so for poles, we have to take the denominator polynomial, equate it to 0, find out its roots, and roots of this denominator polynomial, roots of ds are poles, and roots of numerator polynomial are zeros. Remember these things. Okay, these are most important things to remember. Roots of denominator polynomial are called poles, and roots of numerator polynomial are called zeros. Okay, if degree of if in a system there are more poles, or at least the number of poles is equal to the number of zeros, then system function is proper. If number of zeros is more than number of poles, then system function is improper. Okay, now I am going to talk about something, some additionally important part, which is called pole zero plot. Okay, I am going to talk about pole zero plot. As the name suggests, you can think of it as what would it be? Pole zero plot. What would it be? We have calculated poles, we have calculated zeros. So we are going to plot those poles and zeros on a graph. We are going to calculate the poles and zeros on a graph, and that is called as pole zero plot. Okay, so in order to do this, we have to first understand that how this plot is going to, how this plot we are going to draw. Remember this, we are going to draw on normal graph paper. Okay, we are going to draw the graph on normal graph paper. Why I am saying normal? Do you know any other type of graph paper?
Semi-log.
Yes, correct. You know semi-log graph paper, correct? Right? Okay, we are going to need semi-log graph paper also in the when we will draw our other type of graphs which we will cover in the Bode diagrams, which is part of the frequency domain analysis. It will be covered in the 5th unit. Okay, so at that time we will see semi-log graph paper also. Okay, so right now we are going to see how the pole zero plot is done. We are going to plot whatever the poles and zeros we get on the normal graph paper. So now normal graph paper, you know how is it? It is normally, it is linear graph, right? All the divisions on x as well as y axis are equally placed, right? Barabar hai na? All the divisions are equal. So on right side 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the negative axis, it is like this: -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, something like that. Here is a 0. Okay, but remember we are plotting what? Poles and zeros. So what are these? These are values of S. Means these are the values of Laplace domain variable. So this is basically a S plane, right? So if it is a S plane, it is actually we are plotting the values of S on this graph. And as we know, S is equal to what? Sigma plus J omega. S is equal to sigma plus J omega, right? S is equal to sigma plus J omega. So this real axis, right? S, sigma is the real component, omega is the imaginary component. So on the x-axis, we are going to plot sigma, and on the imaginary axis, we are going to plot J omega. Okay, so this is going minus, and this is minus J omega. Okay, J omega minus J omega, sigma minus sigma. This is how the graph is. Basically, it is not something new. It is basically the same as plotting of a complex number, right? It is nothing new. Okay, recall that this is just a complex number. S is just a complex number which has the real and imaginary part. So when we plot a complex number on a graph, we take real part on the x-axis and imaginary part on the y-axis. Okay, so that's it. That is nothing new in this. What is something important to note down is when we are plotting pole, it is indicated by a cross on the graph, and when we are plotting a zero, it is indicated by a small circle at that particular location. Now, for example, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some examples only. Okay, I will for the sake of clarity, I will use some color coding here. Okay, let's say I have S equal to -2. Okay, this is, let's say, a pole at S equal to -2. So how I'm going to show you that? I'm going to show this is that, right? S equal to -2 means what? S equal to -2 plus J0, right? Imaginary part is 0.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
सर स्क्रीन फार फ्लक्च्युएट होते सर.
Okay. Screen.
सारखं डेस्कटॉप दिसते, कुठली तरी फाईल ओपन होते व्यवस्थित.
फाईल ओपन होते माझ्या इथली.
हा हो हो. पीडीएफ व्ह्यूवर, त्याच्यानंतर डेस्कटॉप, त्याच्यानंतर कुठला तरी फोल्डर.
अरे मला तर फक्त एकच दिसते माझ्या इथं.
नाही सर, कंटिन्युअसली बंद चालू होते ते.
एक मिनिट मी चेक करतो काय होतंय त्याचं. Share. आता काय दिसतंय? हॅलो, आता काय दिसतंय तुम्हाला स्क्रीनवर?
पीपीटी हा तेच.
एक्झाम्पल
आता
आणि
आहे का?
ग्राफ. आता ग्राफ दिसतो.
ओके, ठीक आहे ना?
हो.
सर जेव्हा तुम्ही लिहायला लागाल ना त्यावेळी पूर्ण सगळं फ्लक्च्युएट होते.
ओके, बरं आता कंटिन्यू करतो मी आणि मग परत झालं तुम्हाला सांगा. आता हे बघा मी इथे लिहिलेलं आहे, एक एक्झाम्पल घेतलं आपण पोलचं S इक्वल टू -2. बऱ्याचदा फक्त S इक्वल टू -2 असा दिलेला राहील. एवढंच दिलेलं राहील. जर का S इक्वल टू -2 दिलंय तर ऑब्विसली J component means the imaginary component in that case would be considered as 0 obviously. Okay, so we have to plot this now. Now as it is a pole, it has to be indicated by a cross. Okay, and that cross has to be placed at the location of or at the value of S, means where? Here. So like this you will put a pole. Okay, now let's say another example. I'm going to put a 0 at, let's say, S equal to -3. Okay, so how I'm going to put that? I'm going to put that like this. A small circle around the value of the 0 we are going to put. When we draw this particular type of graph, where we take sigma on the real axis, j omega on the imaginary axis, linear scale, put crosses at the locations of poles, small circles on the locations of zeros. This is called as pole zero plot. Okay, this is nothing but it is called the pole zero plot. So the question would be in general very simple. I mean, only a single step question may be asked to you, that a sample G of S would be given and plot or draw pole zero plot, PZ plot, pole zero plot, something like that it would be written. So if this small question is given to you, what it indicates? We have to draw graph like this for this particular transfer function. But in order to draw the graph, what are all the things required? Obviously, you will have to find out the poles as well as zeros. Values of poles and zeros you will have to first find out. And once you find out those values, then only you will be able to draw the graph, right? Means if there is a single line, in short question could be asked, instead of asking calculate poles and zeros, find out poles and zeros and order of the system and then draw the graph, they can ask you only simply draw the pole zero plot. Okay, so if this is the question, you will still have to perform all the steps. Take the numerator polynomial, equate it to 0, find out the roots of that numerator polynomial, which will be equal to the roots of the numerator polynomial will be what? Poles or zeros? Yes, roots of the numerator polynomial are called what? Zeros of the system, right? Roots of the numerator polynomial. And roots of the denominator polynomial are called what? Roots of the denominator polynomial are called poles of the system, right? And order of the system is equal to the number of poles in the system. Okay, right? So this is how you will have to solve this problem. And normally this question is asked, or depends on how complicated the polynomials are. For 4 to 6 marks, you may be asked this kind of a question. A transfer function would be given, pole zero plot needs to be drawn, and also comment on the proper improper function. Okay. Now, if this is the case, that there is a pole and there is a zero, the system function is proper or improper? There is one pole and one zero. So in this case, the system function is proper. The numerator polynomial degree is not more than denominator polynomial degree. If number of zeros are more in the system, then only we are going to call it as a improper system. Okay. Otherwise, the system is called to be proper system. Okay. So this is how the pole zero plots are drawn. Okay. Now, just to recap, this is how we had drawn the pole zero plot. S is a complex number. Remember this, S, which is the Laplace domain variable, is a complex number which has the real part sigma and imaginary part omega. Means sigma plus j omega is equal to S. This plane, this whole thing is called S plane. Okay. And whatever is on the left hand side of the j omega axis, or this is also called imaginary axis. And this is called real axis. Okay, these terms are not new. You know this, right? Any complex graph is always like that. X-axis or the horizontal axis is called the real axis, and the vertical axis is called the imaginary axis. Okay. Now, anything on the left hand side of the imaginary axis is called LHP, means left hand plane, left half plane. What does it mean? Right? What actually, this is the S plane. This whole thing is S plane, and it is being divided here by the imaginary axis into left and right. Okay, left and right. It is being divided into two halves, left half plane and right half plane. Okay, so these two sections are important to note down. Okay, because these are the things that we are going to these are the names or the terms we are going to use multiple number of times when we will talk about the stability and other concepts in the control system. Okay, so things to remember again: the whole plane is called a S plane. X-axis is the real axis. On x-axis we plot sigma. The vertical axis is imaginary axis on which we plot j omega. Anything on the left hand side of the j omega plane is called left half of plane. Anything on the right hand side is called right half of plane. Okay. If now I'm going to put just this as a kind of a summarized form of something or a conceptual form. All the very much details about this stability we are going to study in the third unit again. Okay, but why we are discussing the LHP and RHP right now is because for the terms to know. Okay, if all the poles, remember what I am saying, all the poles, if all the poles of the system lie in left half plane, the system is said to be stable. And what I'm talking about, poles. Okay. If any of the poles lie in the right half plane, the system is said to be unstable. Okay. And if any poles lie on imaginary axis, the system is said to be marginally stable. So there are three things. Okay. Stable, unstable, and marginally stable. These are three things that we are talking about. We are going to talk about in the third unit in more details. So also we are talking about only poles. Okay, we are not talking about any zero. So you can get the idea that the stability of a system depends only on poles of the system and not on any of the zeros of the systems. Okay. So pole I am talking about. If I have, let's say, 5 poles. So those can be somewhere like this, anything like this. Okay. Now, what if yesterday we have seen, or in the earlier lecture, that there was a pole like this. Something was like this, x plus 1 square. So there would be 2 poles at minus and minus 1, right? So how do we draw these repeated poles? In that case, you have to do it like this. A little offset but overlapping cross. Similarly, if there was a 0, we will draw it in a similar way. A little overlapping but offset to just indicate that there are 2 multiple. And also you can put a note, 2 second order pole. Here it means second order. Means there are 2 poles at the same value, at the same location. That also you can write down. Okay, so what these 3 things mean? Okay, if all the poles, as I said here, we have 5 poles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 poles, all are on the left half plane. So the system would be stable in this case. Okay. For red poles, system is stable. If I take another example, if I have, let's say, of poles, okay, I have lot of poles, but one pole is on the right hand side. What will happen if for this case of green poles, the system is unstable? What does it mean? If any pole lie on the right hand side, the system would become unstable. Remember how many poles I have drawn here? Just for an example, even 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have drawn 7 poles, and out of which 6 are in LHP, 1 in RHP. Still the system is unstable. So what does it mean? The number of poles on left side all will become irrelevant if there is even a single pole on the right hand side. Okay, म्हणजे असं नाही की वेटेज आहे की इतके पोल आणि तितके पोल किंवा नेट नंबर ऑफ पोल्स ऑन द राइट हँड साइड असं काही नाही. इवन इफ अ सिंगल पोल इज ऑन द राइट हँड साइड, the system will be unstable. Okay, so remember this thing, all the poles must be on the left hand side. If any pole goes on the right hand side, the system will become unstable. And a third case of marginally stable system, if poles are on the imaginary axis. So for the case of these colored poles, the system is marginally stable. Okay, so this is how the system is. This is how the stability changes with the change in the location of poles. Okay, now we will continue this discussion in the afternoon. I am going to conduct again one more lecture in the afternoon. So now we are going out of